It's estimated that around a third of all workplace injuries are lacerations or puncture wounds resulting from the use of a knife. The root cause, of course, is having a body part in the line of fire of that knife blade. But when the knife is being used as per manufacturer specification, the leading contributing factor is typically a dull or broken blade. It may sound illogical, but sharp knife blades aren't usually the culprit when it comes to these laceration and puncture wounds. Dull blades require much more exertion to achieve the desired cut, and if the worker has to exert excessive force on the blade just to start the cut, then there's an increased chance that the blade will crawl up and above the material being cut, ultimately slipping along its surface with great force. The result is a massive amount of stored energy along a focused line of fire. Whenever blades begin to rip and tear as opposed to cut, then it's time to replace the blade. And when disposing of the old blades, don't just chuck them in the dumpster, garbage can, or nose bag. At the very least, wrap them in several layers of tape to soften those edges up a bit before putting them in the garbage. But it'd be best if they were collected in a makeshift sharps container. You know, an unused and dedicated Gatorade bottle or something of the sort, and then throwing that in the garbage. Before starting your cut, always consider where the knife will go in the event of a slip, and always count on it slipping. Check the blood zone. This will be the line of fire struck by zone when that knife does slip. It's usually defined as arm's reach with a scope of 180 degrees. If there's something in this zone that should not be cut, you know, like body parts, whether they're yours or your fellow workers, then reposition that work or move said body parts. Stabilizing the material being cut is a must. If not stabilized, then the material is more prone to slipping, which causes the user to lose control of that knife, and then we're right back to an uncontrolled line of fire injury. If at all possible, never use the knife while in an awkward position. Stand in a well-balanced position to maximize control over the knife and the material being cut, and use the dominant hand to control the knife. Whenever possible, always cut away from yourself. This automatically removes you from the blood zone. However, there are times when this is not possible, as when cutting flat stock, like paper or cardboard, on a flat surface. In these instances, pulling the knife is safer, but when doing so, don't pull it directly toward you. Keep it angled so that your body parts remain outside that line of fire. But when skinning wire, always cut away from you. The wire is being braced with your free hand. It is not stabilized or necessarily secured. Any play in that wire will cause that knife to slip. When using knives, always wear cut-resistant gloves. Cut-resistant gloves are not meant to negate knife safety or replace common sense. Note that the gloves are labeled as cut-resistant, not cut-proof. Cut-resistant gloves are designed for an oopsie and are intended to encourage that worker to reflect on what just went wrong and to afford that worker the opportunity to re-engage common sense and apply whatever corrective measures are necessary to prevent recurrence. Cut-resistant gloves are not intended to permit nor encourage workers to intentionally place their body parts in harm's way. Don't do it. Don't rush or take shortcuts when using a knife, especially when it comes to cutting through thicker materials. Be patient and take several passes, cutting a little deeper with each consecutive pass. Knives are never intended to be side-loaded. They are not designed to be opening cans, loosening screws, or prying objects apart. Knife blades are typically thin and brittle, which allows them to snap with relative ease. This now introduces flying shrapnel into the mix, which is just another reason why safety glasses are required at all times. When knives are not in use, they are to be properly closed, fastened together, or otherwise sheathed. A blade is never to be left exposed when not in use. And if closing folding knives, remain aware of the potential pinch points. When closing folding knives, keep the fingers out of the guillotine area where the blade snaps into the handle. Don't attempt to try and catch a falling knife. A falling knife is sharp on all sides. Always use knives within the manufacturer's scope of design, and above all, no horseplay.